KYUK in Bethel. Connecting Alaskans. Life informed.
Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for being here for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the show times again, 5:30 p.m. KUAC 9.4, same thing for APB, and 360 North at 7:30, and 5 a.m. following morning, Alaska Public Media, and uploaded to YouTube by about 7 to 8 p.m. each day. And satellite today showing area clouds here north of a low center that's south of Nunivak Island or southwest of Cape Newingham, and kind of a growing area of snow there. It's the cold air coming down and wrapping in across the Pribilofs and into the Bering Sea here on down to the Aleutians, and then milder air coming in and kind of overrunning the colder air. So we're getting a zone of snow out there. Otherwise, we've got snow showers all the way down to the central eastern Aleutians. Another storm down here that's been pulling eastward. Showers tapered off there, Kodiak Island today after they picked up about 1/3 of an inch earlier today. And then low pressure, both at the surface and aloft here, moving northward onto the North Gulf Coast. Not as much rain as yesterday here, Prince William Sound, Cordova to the Kenai Peninsula. A nice day over south central Alaska with pretty good clearing and a strong trough dragging across the southeast coast there. Dropped more rain throughout the day today, and also in the broken queue there coming on shore, thunderstorms extending from well west of Yakutat all the way down to about the central southeast coast, and it was all pulled inland during the afternoon today. Clouds up here over the north central interior with snow from about here northward through the Koyukuk Valley and on out across the Brooks Range to the North Slope and the Arctic coast. On the chart, roughly there's the area of snow that occurred today in the turquoise shaded area up there. Otherwise, this fairly strong trough here, again, coming northward, and thunderstorms broke out, scattered thunderstorms along that trough as it moved inland. Rainfall amounts range from about 1.25 inches at Cake here on the southeast coast. Farther north, a place called Long Lake received 2 inches of rain. Actually, since midnight, excuse me, had over 2 inches of rain. Pretty gusty winds, but no storm force winds associated with that. And some scattered rain and snow showers inland on the lake, Alaska Peninsula, and mixing with snow here for the eastern Aleutians. Just snow, gusty winds as high as 45 miles an hour blowing across the Pribilof Islands. That cold air, big Arctic high over here over the Russian Far East, where temperatures over there this morning running anywhere from 20 to 40 below zero. That cold air coming out and southward here, dropping the snowfall levels just about down to sea level all the way to the Aleutians this afternoon, and pretty gusty winds and snow showers or just flat out snow from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait and all along the Arctic coast. Some light snow occurring throughout the day today. And for tonight, let's see, that trough still hangs along the coast there, but not nearly as strong as it was today, but actually it's another one that comes up, brings some showers into the mostly along the coast late tonight, tomorrow. Otherwise, inland areas drying out a little bit there, and scattered rain and snow showers here, North Gulf Coast. Probably up here to the north, whatever occurs the Copper River Basin would be in the form of snow, but those amounts will be quite light, as well as across the Kenai Peninsula. Just a chance of some scattered shower activity all the way down. This system spreading rain up toward Kodiak Island later tonight with a gradual increase in the winds. And again, snow showers all the way out to the coast there. Dillingham has a chance, as well as Togiak. Not too bad though over the Kuskokwim Delta on up the valleys there into the central interior. Just variably cloudy skies, partly to mostly. A few flurries possibly here, 40-mile country and northward. So this area of snow tapering off, and by about 3 a.m. tomorrow morning should be right along the coast there, mostly off to the north, but still those northerly winds pulling it down across the Bering Strait. Really no change out here over the Bering Sea. Still that cold northerly wind blowing pretty strong there for the Pribilost, becoming more northwesterly as it sweeps in across the eastern Aleutians. North winds, but dropping off out toward Shemya. And for the Saturday outlook tomorrow, 964 millibar low here south of the Alaska Peninsula, and the higher pressure out to the west. Good gradient, especially eastern Aleutians, 45 or 40 to 50 knot winds here from about Atka over toward Nikolsky, and definitely full gales across the Pribilof Islands there. And for the Arctic coast, though, winds not all that bad, starting to lighten up a little bit there, but still some flurries chances here over the northwest interior. Otherwise, from the Yukon Flats, actually from the north slope, all the way southward here into the Copper River Basin, partly to mostly cloudy skies, very light winds. Same thing for the central interior on down into the Kuskokwim Valley areas, but this system coming northwestward here with the next front, that brings increase in the rain and wind again tomorrow afternoon for the southeast coast, and they'll be sliding across Kodiak Island, kind of a mixture of conditions out in this area. Scattered rain and snow showers for the southeast Bering Sea. But again, strong winds, no change, pattern pretty consistent out here actually through the weekend with snow showers, strong gusty north winds, Adak, Atka, Nikolsky, northward again to St. Lawrence Island. But conditions diminishing out to the west. And then on Sunday, higher pressure weekly moves eastward here, so you can see the winds really drop off out here to the west. In fact, turn southwest as that warm front approaches Shemya and Attu. Stays quite windy, but not as windy, especially for the strait there in St. Lawrence Island. But still looking at pretty good north winds here, gales along the coast, right down across the eastern Aleutians with numerous snow showers continuing. And the interior here, not too bad, partly to mostly cloudy, maybe a chance of a few flurries, but basically that front comes inland and this portion of it really dries out or loses the moisture. Just look for cloudy skies with just some isolated rain or snow showers and the milder air pulling up from the southeast, and good rain here for the southeast coast. Front moves inland, another trough forms, strong southwest flow. Just will keep surges of moisture rolling in. The next one even farther out to the southwest there. That'll probably be swinging around for the first of next week. And for temperatures today for the southeast coast, mid to upper 40s the entire stretch of the way. 46 at Klawock, 249 up at Skagway. Sitka had 49, as well as Yakutat. They picked about 2/3 of an inch of rain during the day today. And over at Cordova, just a couple hundredths of an inch with 44 degrees. Dry, Valdez 41, mid to upper 30s, the Sitna Valley, Madanuska Valley, Palmer 35, Kenai 39, 43 in Homer, Seward 45, and 20s to lower 30s here for the Copper River Basin. Northway had 10 degrees, but Fairbanks had 20, 27 at Tanana, 22 there at McGrath, and farther north, 23 at Bethel, or Bettles, with light snow today, 14 over at Fort Yukon. Teens here from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast with those east winds kick Barrow up to 25 degrees, Kaktovik 24, otherwise upper teens, 13 at Point Lay. Then back up to 27 at Point Hope, otherwise upper teens to mid 20s here. Kotzebue Sound area, Seward Peninsula, 24 Nome, 27 out at Savunga, and 20s here, lower to mid, right on out toward the southwest coast. And for the Pribilost, right around freezing today with the strong north winds, again gusting at least to 45 miles an hour at times. Upper 30s central Aleutians, and Alaska Peninsula to near 40 around the King Salmon area. And for the lows tonight, could drop a little below zero, areas in the North Slope possibly. Same thing here for the Yukon Flats. Otherwise, 0 to 10 for the lows, teens on the coast, 20s back to the west, upper 20s to lower 30s, Bristol Bay. Same thing here for south central Alaska, but north of the mountains, 5 to 15, and 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle. And moving on to highs for tomorrow, mid to upper 40s again for the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast. Upper 30s and near 40, south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula. Mid 40s, Bristol Bay from, say, Iliamna on down the coastline there. Actually, all the Alaska Peninsula into the mid 40s, upper 20s, St. Lawrence Island. Teens and 20s, central interior. Teens to lower 20s from the Brooks Range to the coast. And flying weather tomorrow morning, still a big area IFR in the forecast here. All of the Arctic coast, most of the North Slope, and down into the Brooks Range. Gradually improving, Tanana Valley looking pretty good there. Could be some marginal stuff off to the east. And Susitna, Matanuska Valley, VFR, as well as much of Cook Inlet. But marginal VFR, still a possibility there over the Copper River Basin. IFR along the coastal mountains, as well as the northern Panhandle. And quite a bit of IFR, again, with all the cold air coming out over the open water, picking up a lot of moisture. So that with the snow, IFR from the Bering Strait right down to the Pribilofs and either or here down to the central Aleutians. For tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at IFR for the central coast there, say from Aliktok on down just about to Cape Lisburne. Marginal through this area, back into the IFR, Nunivak Island, and into the Yukon Delta coastal areas a little bit here, and from the Kilburk Mountains southwestward to just probably into the Unalaska Dutch Harbor area. Better conditions for the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay. Lingering IFR possible on the western Alaska range here. I think it'd be probably more like marginal, but IFR here for the Coast Range and lingering over the northern southeast coast with marginal VFR though all the way down to Dixon Entrance. Anatuvik, marginal VFR as well as Adigan. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, chance of IFR in the eastern approaches. Rainy though occasionally marginal, which means could be VFR at other times. Windy VFR. And Isabel, marginal becoming VFR, while Montasta will go for a VFR day there for the entire day tomorrow. Same thing for Tanita. Portage, though, marginal to IFR. Lowest conditions probably on the eastern entrance. For Chilkoot and White, it looks like IFR to start with, gradually becoming marginal into the afternoon. And for the freezing levels, late tonight, early tomorrow morning, we're talking about 4,000 feet here up over south central Alaska, and then 2,000 feet just to the north there with 2,000 to 4,000 foot freezing levels down across the southeast coast. At the surface here, still mostly north of the Pribilofs, but that's kind of fluctuating around out there with those strong north winds and all the cold air coming southward. Icing above about 5,000 feet, again, southeast coast, most of the North Gulf Coast, down into Kodiak Island, kind of ending as you head west. Cook Inlet northward looks pretty good. And possibility of some areas of light rime icing here above about 3,000 feet across this entire shaded area, which includes St. George to Atka, eastern Aleutians, and Alaska Peninsula up to about Nelson Lagoon. And for the winds aloft, big trough tomorrow, one coming eastward here. Strong jet across the Pacific, starts out at 100 knots and then up to 160 to 50 knots here. Splits apart right about in this location, one branch southeast turning southerly there, only at about 40 knots, a little bit stronger branch, mostly out of the south there, rolling up into the Panhandle, and then the other branch off into the west coast. 9,000 foot winds, pretty good easterlies here with this strong low south of the Alaska Peninsula, 35 increasing to 40 to 50 knots there coming across Fognak and the Barren Islands. And actually pretty strong winds right across Bristol Bay. 45 knots, turn northerly, pick up to 50 knots from St. Paul, right down across Nikolsky, 40 knots Adak, and then really dropping off as you head west. Light winds here from central interior on up to the Arctic coast. 3,000 feet, same pattern here, easterlies 35 increasing to 50 knots coming right across the Aleutian Range. Northerlies 40 to 50 knots here, eastern Bering Sea down across the east central Aleutians. 40 knot winds all the way up to St. Lawrence Island. lighter north of the Bering Strait, and of course light over the interior. Not too bad over the southeast coast, 25 knots there along or just off the coast of Prince of Wales Island. And for turbulence, through a little bit of light to isolated moderate chop here for that winds, but pretty smooth elsewhere. Smooth through most of the interior. Moderate chop, North Gulf Coast, right across southern Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula in this zone, all the way out to the Pribilofs. And then with those strong northerlies, occasional moderate chop, probably through the weekend, although this probably will let up a little bit on Sunday from what we'll have for tomorrow. And then possible severe turbulence with those very strong north-northwesterlies coming across the Aleutians there. They'll be mostly near or west of Unalaska Dutch Harbor on out to possibly as far west as Adak. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. This evening we're very fortunate, in fact honored. Our guest is Dr. Earl Wehner. Dr. Wehner is a member of the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB. He's got an incredible career in aviation. He spent the last 6 years with the NTSB. Before that he was with Flight Safety, and he spent 24 years with the Boeing Company. Lots of things, lots of improvements, lots of technology to his credit. But he worked, one of the things he worked when he was with Boeing was the initial glass cockpit concepts. Dr. Wehner, welcome.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here, Harry.
It's a real honor to have you here, sir, and have you and your team up here for the recently concluded seminar on loss of control. But before we get to that, would you tell our audience a little bit about the NTSB and what your responsibilities are as a member?
Well, that's a good question. The NTSB is responsible for improving transportation safety. So that means aviation, but as well as aviation, rail, highway, pipeline, marine, and so forth. Our real stock and trade is investigating accidents, and from investigating accidents, determine the things that could have been done to prevent the accident from happening again. So our primary output are safety recommendations, things that will improve safety. It is interesting to point out that the NTSB has no enforcement authority. So we're basically here to improve safety and not enforce any regulations.
So that brings up an interesting question. The recently released movie Sully about the miracle on the Hudson, there was some, I might say, controversy about the NTSB, how they were portrayed in the film. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the portrayal of the way Sully handled the airplane is quite accurate. The controversy with the NTSB was really something for the movie, and it's not characteristic of the way NTSB works with the folks, families and friends and others who are associated with an accident. As I said, we have no enforcement authority, so we're not trying to find fault. We're trying to find what can be done to avoid having that same accident happen again.
So that's probably the reason, that mission is probably the reason that you came to Anchorage and to Alaska with your team to put together the recent seminar. Can you talk a little bit about the seminar and why it focused on loss of control?
Well, as I said, we don't have any regulatory authority, so we need ways to get our message out. The message in this particular case is almost half of the general aviation, personal flying, and Part 91 operations, accidents, almost half of them are loss of control accidents. And loss of control is then on our most wanted list. So we use opportunities like the seminar that we held here in concert with your organization to try to get people to understand the hazards of loss of control, the ways loss of control can happen, and hopefully prevent some loss of control accidents.
Well, I've got to tell you, Dr. Wehner, the past couple of weeks, actually the past couple of months, working with with your staff and you to put together this seminar was very rewarding. You got a great bunch of professionals working for you, and it was a real honor to have them out here, to have them help us put this together. What I'd like to do is get you back on the program and talk about loss of control, because I think there's some misconceptions out there about loss of control. But what I'd like to do is maybe have you describe what loss of control is, and also I want to address the unfortunate fact that loss of control accidents are virtually all preventable. So we'll tape another session, talk a little bit more about loss of control. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's session. Tune in again, and Dr. Weiner will talk a little bit about why we focused on loss of control, or LOC, in our recent seminar. Until next time, fly safe.
Welcome back. Look for gale force winds here. Just about all of the coastline with speeds at about 35 knots with 12 to 13 foot seas. Pretty brisk southeasterly wind for Clarence Strait, dropping off to 20 knots for Stevens Passage, and south to southeast at about 15 there for Lynn Canal. Then on Sunday, they'll swing around to the north, 20 knots, 4 foot seas. Small craft advisories for Stevens Passage with southeast winds, and then gales for Clarence Strait. Good gales here all along the coast, 35 to 40 knots out of the south, turning southeast, sea 16 to 17 feet. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, small craft advisories east 25, northeast 25, northern Cook, all of Cook Inlet. And small craft advisories here, the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, Shelikof Strait, and east side of Kodiak Island, all at 30 knots with 8 to 12 foot seas, and 30 knot winds here for the North Gulf Coast, seas 12 to 14. And then on Sunday, lighter winds, still looking at small craft advisories, Shelikof Strait and Kamishak Bay, as well as the Barrens, but the winds here coming down to 20 knots for the east side of Kodiak, and small craft advisories continue east, becoming northeast, 25 to 30 knots. Prince William Sound, northeast 20, seas 3 to 4 feet. And for Bristol Bay tomorrow, east 30 knots, 15 to 20 knot winds here in the forecast for the Alaska Peninsula with about 8 foot seas, and then southeast 20 from Castle Cape on up to Sitkinak. And then the Sunday forecast brings gales here from Castle Cape to Sitkinak out of the northeast, 35 knots, really depending on exactly how that next low tracks northward and develops. Small craft advisories here, Bristol Bay down the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. And for the Aleutians, pretty good winds tomorrow, 40 to 45 knots for the eastern Aleutians, and 35 to 40 for the Adak-Atka zones, and gradually diminishing as you head west. Seas running as high as 20 to 27 feet here on the Bering Sea side of the Aleutian chain. And then for Saturday, actually tomorrow night, in these zones right here, storm force northwesterlies come in at 50 knots. And then Sunday afternoon, pull it back to about 45, but still around 50 knots here, 20 plus foot seas all through the area. Northwest 45 blowing across Unalaska Island, dropping off to west 20 knots to southwest at 10 for the western zones. And along the southwest coast, 30 to 35 knot northeasterlies tomorrow. North 40 St. Lawrence Island, 12 foot seas, heavy freezing spray up there. North 40 knot winds here, south right across the Pribilos with seas up to 18 feet. And then those 40 knot winds continue here for Sunday for the St. Paul St. George zone with 22 foot seas, gales northward back across St. Lawrence Island, and maybe coming down under gale force there for southwest here of Nunivak Island with 7 foot seas. Up along the Arctic coast on the east side, 20 to 25 knots, heavy freezing spray all across to the central coast, actually heavy freezing spray warnings all the way down to the Bering Strait, with seas running 8 to 11 feet here with those 25 to 30 knot northerlies. Not too bad on the winds for the west side. And then for Sunday, really becomes light, actually kind of light and variable here for the western coast. Northwest 15, picking up to 20, 25 knots there from Wales to Cape Thompson. Otherwise, central Arctic coast, east 15, seas at about 4 feet, and 20-knot winds, strong enough to keep the heavy freezing spray warning in along the east side there, but seas and winds definitely coming down. And then for tonight again, snow tapering off and moving north and off the coast there, but kind of lingering there, Point Hope, Cape Lisburn. Lots of showers, strong winds through the Bering Sea, cold air plunging southward here, drops the snowfall levels to sea level there, even over the Aleutians. Rain, though, coming up with this system, southeast flow to the Alaska Peninsula, scattered showers across southern Alaska, less in the way of showers here for the Panhandle. Still pretty steady, but not like the last 24 hours. Scattered showers possible. Copper River Basin, anywhere inland, they'll probably fall as snow, and then a few flurries lingering up here over the northeast interior. For Saturday, here's the next front. Rain and wind, again, the gales increase here, come back into the North Gulf Coast. Rain and wind pushing into the Prince William Sound area, Kenai Peninsula, and something of a mixed precipitation pattern there developing for the Kodiak Island area, but coming across the Aleutian Range there, kind of blocking it off. So just some actually scattered showers back to the west. And then in the colder air, looking at snow again for the Pribilofs and those strong north to northeast winds, possibly gusting to 50 miles an hour for St. Paul, St. George, maybe even gusting 60 plus miles per hour from Atka to Nikolsky, and then lightening up out to the west with scattered snow showers up across the Seward Peninsula, especially from the Yukon Delta coast here northward, flurries in the northwest, drawing out for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. And that continues into Sunday as well, but the chances of snow increase off to the west. No change here over the eastern Bering Sea. Strong winds, snow showers right down across the Aleutians. Rain again coming up with another trough here to the North Gulf Coast, approaching the Kenai Peninsula once again, and another surge of moisture brings the gales into the Panhandle.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
There are many ways to give to this station, but the easiest way is to become